Transformation with Africa initiative. It is a government initiative, so it has an acronym, and it is DTA. So you will see it referred to often as DTA. But the president is very excited about this initiative, as am I. And it is part of a broader initiative.
Almost 30% have closed for good. The Americans who need help with rent, already they are $25 billion in the hole. So will the relief stimulate this economy, or will it simply staunch the bleeding? Lawmakers from both sides say the $900 billion is just a temporary bandage.
This bill is not sufficient. It's emergency, but it's not enough. And one place it's not enough is relief to people.
Here it is, everybody. Joe Biden has proposed a brand new bill that will benefit millions of Americans in stimulus cash. It's good to see that President Biden is finally ready to help out the American people with stimulus payments. Here is how to get your stimulus check. So folks, as Congress agrees towards the end of the year in stimulus payments, members have one demand. There is no corporate tax breaks unless anti-poverty and family support measures are re-upped. In a letter to Representative Jay Paul, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer said they are not going to consider any end-of-year legislation with corporate tax breaks unless there is some commensurate support and relief for families and workers. It includes bringing back more generous child tax credits and extending the expanded income tax credit, a suite of new tax measures that drastically reduce poverty after being included in Joe Biden's initial stimulus package. The first round of child tax credits were left alone, under which parents could receive $300 a month per child, lifted 3 million children out of poverty. The earned income credit, on the other hand, targeted lower-income Americans. It was expanded to make childless adults eligible for up to nearly $7,000 in tax breaks. But Congress failed to renew the credit when tax negotiations over the Build Back Better Act stalled, leaving some families struggling after months and checks ended in December. The lawmaker said in a letter, "While this Congress has delivered on many priorities, we have been able to continue some of the essential programs, like the child tax credit." And I agree, folks, but as the Fed continues to raise interest rates, it's pinching many families on housing costs, including rising rental rates. Democrats are still mulling on what they want to do, and whether they're able to do it. In the last month of holding both chambers of Congress, the 58 members signed onto a letter and a warrant of expansions to credits to come in January next year. That means more stimulus money for all of you next year in 2023, and also this year in December. One tax measure of particular interest as the year ends is the restructuring of credits to research and development. Under the former president's tax law, a change that would allow companies to deduct those expenses every year and would increase revenue was meant to kick in by 2022, just as part of the Build Back Better Act. The House proposed delaying that measure start for 4 years, which would have amounted to an estimated $213 billion. That's a blow to revenue over the next 10 years, while benefiting large corporations. And so now they are urging that any potential delay of that measure be coupled with expansions of both child tax and earned income tax, something that some Senate Democrats have previously signaled they might be open to. Folks, what do you think about Joe Biden and stimulus payments? Will he do more for the American people? Will he send out stimulus checks? Well, tell me what you think, because in October, the IRS sent notices to more than 9 million families who didn't file their federal tax returns, just to let them know that they might qualify for these checks. Now the enhanced 2021 credit can still be claimed for next year's taxes. The deadlines to use the online filing tool to claim the tax credits was just November and November 18th for the IRS Free File program. However, according to CNBC, individuals and families who missed both of these still have to put 3 years just to get that stimulus cash. Many states have already sent out inflation relief checks to low-income households. States including Rhode Island and Connecticut have already passed their own child tax credit bill and have sent out direct payments to provide relief to struggling families, just to make sure people get the stimulus cash. But do you think that President Biden will keep his promise on this?
Okay, Mr. Mayor,
yes.
Good morning. Have you received approval for state or federal aid for the $1 billion migrant crisis?
No, still, we're still in conversations, and we're going to have a plan A and a plan B. That's how I operate. We need help. We spent a lot of money. This was a national problem, and it was a state problem, and we need help from the state government, and we need help from the national government.
We're going to build a country from the bottom up and the middle out, not the top down. When the middle does well, the wealthy do very well. So this law is about more than rebuilding our infrastructure. It's about rebuilding the middle class, something John knows a lot about and talks a lot about. And let me tell you, I'm a proud Delawarean, but Pennsylvania is my native state. It's in my heart. I can't tell you how much it means to me to be part of rebuilding this beautiful state. My grandfather, Finney from Scranton, would really be proud of me right now.
It's a huge day for millions of Americans. Joe Biden has made a shocking announcement. Now, this will affect many Americans financially, everybody. The lawmakers have already confirmed that you have another chance to claim a fourth stimulus check. It's the latest breaking news on stimulus payments, so hopefully President Biden can get the stimulus out before next year. But do you believe that President Biden will do this and approve the stimulus checks before it's too late? Well, tell me in the comments down below, because I definitely believe he has to. If you're hoping for a more fourth stimulus check to be deposited into your bank from the federal government, well, you may be in store for a surprise. State governors are stepping up. They're sending out more financial aid to the residents already. And the most recent stimulus payment from the Fed came from the American Rescue Plan in March of 2021. And now, while that was passed a while ago, the Republicans still voted for it. And it shows that some Republicans and Democrats can agree that a fourth stimulus check is necessary. Republicans didn't believe another stimulus was necessary at the time when the law was passed. And with Republicans taking control of the House, it will no longer be possible for Democrats to pass this bill on their own. If they want to get a law to President Biden's desk, they will need to support of at least some Republicans and representatives. Although the likelihood of a federal stimulus was greatly reduced by the outcome of the election, it's still possible that some Americans could receive more help from the government. This could come in the shape of a form of an expanded child tax credit. Several prominent Republicans like Mitt Romney have proposed expanding this important type of aid as offered to parents. And since an expanded child tax credit was a key piece of the American Rescue Plan, offering more aid to parents has bipartisan support from both Democrats and Republicans. At least that's some good news, folks, because with control of Congress still split, lawmakers are going to have to work across the aisle if they want to get anything done. Since a larger tax credit for parents is one of the few areas where there is some potential for room for agreement, it's possible lawmakers will work on finding consensus on the issue. The Biden administration is yet again extending the pause on federal student loan, a benefit that began in March to people who are struggling financially during this time. Now, the good news is that this extension comes as the Biden administration student loan forgiveness program is tied up in the courts. Creators have already told borrowers the forgiveness program, now which is worth up to $20,000 in debt relief. And according to the Department of Education, or the DOE, everybody, they're saying this, folks, the payment pause will cause and last at least 60 days after the litigation is resolved. If the program has not been implemented and the litigation has not been resolved by the middle of June, then payments will resume days after that. Joe Biden already said many times, I'm completely confident my plan is legal. It isn't fair to ask tens of millions of borrowers that are eligible for this relief to resume their student debt programs and do this while they're in lawsuits. Last week, the Department of Justice already asked the Supreme Court to step in and reinstate the forgiveness program while the legal challenges play out. The program was struck down by a lower court, and now Biden said the payment pause just gives the Supreme Court more time to think about the current case, and borrower balances have effectively been frozen since then. So with no payments required on pretty much every student, and interest expected to cost